You know that feeling. Your phone buzzes, you look down, and you see the message. The one that says they can't make it tonight. The dinner is off. The party's postponed. The meeting got rescheduled. And for just a split second, before you even type your response, you feel it. Relief. Pure, undeniable, almost euphoric relief. You were supposed to be disappointed. You were supposed to feel let down. But instead, your shoulders drop, your chest opens, your entire nervous system exhales like it's been holding its breath for days. And then, immediately after that relief, comes the guilt. Because what kind of person feels happy when plans fall through? What does it say about you that the thing you were supposedly looking forward to now feels like a burden you just escaped? Here's what it says. You are not broken. You are not antisocial. You are not secretly a terrible friend. You are just carrying more weight than you realize. And cancellations aren't failures of connection. They are tiny moments of mercy your nervous system has been begging for. The thing about relief is that it always points to something deeper. It's never random. It's never meaningless. Relief is your body telling you a truth your mind has been too polite to admit. And the truth is this. You were never actually excited about going. You were excited about the idea of going. You were excited about the version of yourself that would show up effortlessly. The version that would be charming and present and energized. The version that doesn't have to perform just to exist in a room with other people. But that version doesn't exist right now. Maybe it never did. What exists is you. The real you. The one who is tired. The one who has been managing 1,000 invisible things all week. The one who wakes up already feeling behind. The one who spends so much energy just maintaining the appearance of being okay, that adding one more social obligation feels like stacking another weight on an already fragile structure. This isn't about introversion. This is about survival. Because here's what no one tells you. Every social interaction costs something. It costs energy. It costs emotional bandwidth. It costs the ability to regulate yourself in private. And if you're someone who has learned that being liked requires constant performance, then every plan you make isn't just a plan. It's an audition for worthiness, for belonging, for proof that you're still capable of being the person people expect you to be. And auditions are exhausting. So when the plan gets canceled, what you're really feeling isn't relief from the event itself. You're feeling relief from the performance, from the weight of having to be on. From the pressure of showing up as someone who has it all together when the truth is, you barely have enough energy to hold yourself together in private. This is the part where we need to talk about the mask. The mask is not what you think it is. It's not some shallow, fake version of yourself you put on to deceive people. The mask is a survival tool. It's the face you learn to wear to stay safe, to stay loved, to stay included. And for most of us, the mask was built in childhood. Think about it. Think about the moments when you learned that certain parts of you were too much, too loud, too sensitive, too needy, too quiet, too intense, too different. You learned that the world didn't have space for all of you, so you edited yourself. You became smaller in some places and louder in others. You learned to read the room before you even entered it. You learned to shape yourself into the version people could handle, and it worked. The mask kept you safe. It kept you connected. It kept you from being rejected or abandoned or criticized. But here's the cost. The mask requires maintenance. It requires energy. It requires you to constantly monitor yourself, adjust yourself, suppress yourself. And over time, that maintenance becomes so automatic that you forget you're even doing it. Until a plan gets canceled, and suddenly, you don't have to do it anymore. Not tonight. Not for a few hours. And your body feels that absence like oxygen. This is why the relief hits so hard. Because it's not just relief from the event. It's relief from the architecture of self-regulation you've been holding in place without even realizing it. It's relief from the question, am I enough right now as I am, without trying? And the answer, when you're alone, is always yes. But when other people are involved, the answer gets complicated. Because other people have expectations. They have needs. They have moods you might have to manage. They have energy you might have to match. They have perceptions of you that you feel responsible for maintaining. So let me tell you what's really happening when you feel relieved. You're not relieved because you don't like people. You're relieved because you don't have to manage people. You don't have to manage their emotions, their comfort, their impression of you, their potential disappointment if you aren't as fun or as available as they hoped. You get to just be, without witnesses, without performance, without the low-grade anxiety that comes from wondering if you're doing it right. And that is not antisocial. That is self-preservation. Because the truth is, most people who feel this way aren't introverts who hate socializing. They are people who have spent their entire lives socializing at a cost. People who learned early on that connection requires compromise. That love requires labor. That belonging requires becoming someone else. This is what we call high-functioning sensitivity. It's not a disorder or a flaw. It's a nervous system that processes the world at a higher volume than most. It's a brain that picks up on subtleties other people miss. Micro-expressions, tonal shifts, energy changes, unspoken tensions. And when you're wired this way, every social interaction isn't just a conversation. It's a data stream. You're reading the room. You're adjusting your energy to match theirs. You're making sure everyone feels comfortable. You're tracking your own performance while simultaneously tracking theirs. And all of that happens beneath your conscious awareness. You don't choose to do it. You just do it. Because that's how you learn to survive in a world that felt unpredictable and overwhelming. But survival strategies are not free. They cost you something. And what they cost you is the ability to show up without effort. The ability to exist without strategy. The ability to be in a room without also being outside yourself, watching yourself, managing yourself. So when a plan gets canceled, what you're really getting back is yourself. Not the performed version, not the managed version, the version that doesn't have to try, the version that can move through your own space without monitoring, the version that can feel what you feel without editing it for an audience. And that version is so rare, so precious, so fragile, that when you get even a few hours with it, your entire system floods with relief. This is why people who feel this way often describe themselves as loving people, but hating plans. Because the love is real, the affection is real, the desire for connection is real, but the cost of accessing that connection feels unsustainable. Now, let's go to the deeper layer. The relief you feel is not just about tonight. It's about every night, every plan, every commitment, every expectation you've been carrying without questioning whether you actually wanted to carry it. Because here's the thing about people pleasing. It doesn't start with saying yes to others. It starts with saying no to yourself. It's the little no you whisper to your own need for rest, the no to your own desire for quiet, the no to your own truth. Every time you agree to a plan you don't have the energy for, you're prioritizing someone else's comfort over your own peace. You're teaching your body that its signals don't matter. So when that plan falls through, the relief isn't just about getting your evening back. It's about your body finally being heard. It's your inner self saying, "Thank you, I can finally breathe." So, what do we do with this? The guilt is real, but it's misplaced. Instead of feeling guilty for feeling relieved, get curious. Ask yourself, what was I dreading about this plan? What performance was I preparing for? What part of me did I feel I had to hide or suppress? The answer will tell you where you're overextended. It'll show you where your mask is the tightest. This isn't about canceling every plan forever. It's about making plans that don't require you to abandon yourself. It's about finding people you don't have to perform for. It's about creating a life where, yes, feels like a genuine choice, not an obligation. And sometimes, it's about giving yourself permission to cancel, to say, "I can't tonight," without a long list of excuses, to honor your own capacity, because the most important plan you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. It starts the first time you ignored your own fatigue because someone else needed you, the first time you pretended to be happy when you were not, because your real feelings felt inconvenient, the first time you showed up when every cell in your body was screaming to stay home, because you were afraid of what it would mean if you did not. And over time, that pattern becomes your identity. You become the person who shows up, the person who is reliable, the person who does not cancel, the person who makes everyone else feel good, even when it costs you everything. But identity is not the same as truth. And the truth is, you are not obligated to be available just because people expect you to be. You are not obligated to perform energy you do not have. You are not obligated to prioritize other people's comfort over your own nervous system. But you were taught that you were. You were taught that good people are selfless, that strong people push through, that worthy people do not need rest, that loved people do not disappoint. And so you learn to override yourself, to dismiss your own limits, to treat your exhaustion as a character flaw instead of information. This is the cage. The cage is not the plans themselves. The cage is the belief that you are only valuable when you are useful, when you are fun, when you are easy, when you are on. And the relief you feel when plans get canceled is not about escaping connection. It is about escaping that belief, even if just for one night. Because when you are alone, you do not have to prove anything. You do not have to earn your right to exist. You do not have to be anything other than what you are in this exact moment, with all your mess and all your fatigue and all your unfiltered humanity. And that is not loneliness. That is freedom. But here is where it gets tricky, because the more relief you feel, the more guilt you feel. And the more guilt you feel, the more you double down on saying yes to things you do not want to do. Because you think the guilt is proof that you are doing something wrong, that you are becoming isolated, that you are losing your ability to connect. But that is not what is happening. What is happening is that your body is trying to tell you something, and your mind is too loyal to old programming to listen. Your body is saying, you are overextended. You are operating beyond your capacity. You need to recalibrate what connection looks like for you, because the way you have been doing it is not sustainable. But your mind is saying, you are broken. You are selfish. You are failing at being human. And that is the war. The war between what you know you need and what you think you should need. Between the relief your body feels and the shame your mind attaches to that relief. And as long as that war continues, you will keep saying yes to plans you do not want. And you will keep feeling relief when they get canceled. And you will keep hating yourself for feeling that relief. Until you make a different choice. The different choice is not to become a hermit. The different choice is to stop treating your need for space as a moral failure. Because the need for space is not a rejection of people. It is a recognition of your own limits. And limits are not weaknesses. Limits are the boundary between sustainable and destructive. When you ignore your limits, you do not become more connected. You become more resentful, more exhausted, more disconnected from yourself, and eventually more disconnected from everyone else. Because you are only showing up as a ghost of who you actually are. But when you honor your limits, something shifts. You stop saying yes out of guilt. You start saying yes out of genuine desire. And when you show up, you actually show up. Not as a performance, not as an obligation, but as a person who chose to be there because they wanted to be. And that kind of presence is worth 100 obligatory appearances. This is what people do not understand about boundaries. They think boundaries are walls. They think boundaries are rejections. But boundaries are not about keeping people out. They are about protecting the quality of what you let in. When you have no boundaries, you let everything in. Every request, every expectation, every demand on your energy. And the result is not more connection. The result is dilution. You become so stretched across so many commitments that none of them get the real you. But when you have boundaries, you get to choose. You get to choose which connections are worth your energy, which plans align with your actual capacity, which people get access to the version of you that is present and alive, not the version that is performing and dying inside. And here is the paradox: the people who love you do not want the performed version. They want the real version, the version that admits when they are tired, the version that says no when they need to, the version that shows up when they actually want to be there, not when they feel obligated. So what does this mean for you? It means the relief you feel is not a problem to fix. It is data to respect. It is your nervous system giving you feedback about what is working and what is not. And what is not working is this: you are living your life as if your own needs are optional, as if rest is something you have to earn, as if disappointing someone else is worse than abandoning yourself. But it is not worse. It is just louder. Because other people will voice their disappointment, but your own system suffers in silence. Until it does not. Until it starts speaking through relief, through exhaustion, through the quiet collapse that happens every time you finally get to be alone. And that collapse is not rest. That is recovery. Recovery from the constant low-grade stress of being someone you are not. Recovery from the anxiety of wondering if you are enough. Recovery from the labor of making everyone else comfortable while your own discomfort goes unacknowledged. This is what makes the relief so intense. Because it is not just about tonight. It is about every night you did not let yourself have. Every boundary you did not set. Every time you said yes when you meant no. The canceled plan is not the gift. The gift is the permission to stop, to breathe, to exist without an audience. But here is the part that will challenge you. You cannot keep waiting for plans to get canceled. You cannot keep relying on external circumstances to give you permission to rest. Because as long as you do that, you are still giving other people control over your nervous system. You have to become the person who cancels. Not out of flakiness, not out of avoidance, but out of self-respect. You have to become the person who says, I know I said yes, but I need to say no. Oh, you are disappointed, but I am at my limit. I know this is inconvenient, but my capacity matters too. And that is terrifying. Because you have built your entire identity on being the person who does not let people down. The person who shows up. The person who sacrifices their own needs for the sake of keeping the peace. But that identity is killing you. Slowly, quietly, in ways you have learned to normalize. And the relief you feel when plans get canceled is your body begging you to stop normalizing it. So here is the shift. That wave of relief you feel when plans get canceled, stop treating it as a sign of guilt. Start treating it as information. Information about what you truly need. Information about what your current lifestyle is actually costing you. It is information about the gap between the person you were pretending to be and the person you actually are. Because that gap, that's where the exhaustion lives. That gap is where the performance happens. That's where you lose yourself. Piece by piece. Plan by plan. Yes by yes. Now, closing that gap doesn't mean you have to isolate yourself. It means getting honest about what kind of connection you actually have the capacity for. What kind of socializing genuinely fills you up instead of draining you. What kind of people make you feel more like yourself, not less. Because let's be real, not all connection is created equal. Some people meet you right where you are. Others require you to become someone else just to be around them. Some interactions leave you feeling energized and alive. Others leave you feeling like you just ran a mental marathon. And you are allowed to choose. You are allowed to prioritize the connections that don't cost you yourself. You are allowed to let go of the ones that do. Not because those people are bad, but because you only have so much energy, and spending it all on performances leaves nothing left for genuine presence. This is the final realization. The relief you feel when plans fall through isn't about the plans themselves. It's about the version of yourself you get to be when no one is watching. The version that doesn't have to try so hard. The version that doesn't have to manage everyone's expectations. The version that gets to be nothing other than exactly what you are. And that version of you deserves more than just stolen moments. That version deserves to be your default, not your escape. But the only way to make that happen is to stop outsourcing your boundaries. Stop waiting for other people to cancel so you don't have to. Stop hoping that circumstances will save you from the discomfort of disappointing someone. Because every time you say yes when you mean no, you're teaching people that your limits don't matter. And every time you feel that relief when plans fall through, your body is reminding you that they absolutely do. So the question isn't, why do I feel this way? The question is, what is this feeling trying to protect me from? And the answer is always the same. It is trying to protect you from living a life that requires you to abandon yourself just to belong. From relationships that only work when you're performing. From a version of connection that costs you everything and gives you nothing real in return. You're not relieved because you don't want connection. You're relieved because you want a connection that doesn't require you to disappear. And that kind of connection only becomes possible when you stop treating your own presence in your own life as optional. So the next time a plan gets canceled and you feel that flood of relief, Don't bury it. Don't shame it. Let it teach you. Let it teach you that you're more tired than you've been admitting, that you're more stretched than you've been acknowledging, that the life you're currently living is not aligned with the energy you actually have. And then make a different choice. Not take it all at once, but slowly, gradually, one boundary at a time. Because the goal isn't to never make plans. The goal is to only make plans that don't require relief when they fall through. The goal is to build a life where your default state isn't exhaustion, where rest isn't something you have to steal, where being alone isn't the only time you get to be yourself. And that life is possible, but it requires you to stop waiting for permission, to stop waiting for plans to get canceled, to stop waiting for external validation that your needs are legitimate. Your needs are legitimate. Your exhaustion is real. Your relief is information. And the most radical thing you can do is start listening to it. Not as a failure, not as a flaw, but as the truth your body has been trying to tell you all along. You're not broken for feeling relief. You're human. And being human means having limits. Honoring those limits isn't selfish. It's the only way to show up as someone real. So which truth hit the hardest for you? Was it the mask? The belief that you're only valuable when you're useful? Or the realization that relief isn't the problem, but the symptom of a life lived beyond your capacity? Let me know in the comments, because the next layer we explore goes even deeper. Thanks for watching.